Yeah, that broadcast is live.
I know, it says it there. Let me just make sure we are indeed live.
Hey,
Sure we are. Yes, we are. Here we go. And welcome to Small Business Chat. Delighted to have chatting to us today the lovely Lynne Stainthorpe from Big Idea Brand Marketing. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Lynne. Absolute pleasure to have you to talk today about personal versus business branding. Lynne, lovely to have you, friend of our chats. What the wisdom that comes with branding. I want to say thank you for coming, first of all, and sharing your insights with us. For those that haven't met Lynne on our chats before, firstly, why not? And second, look, go back to some great wisdom shared on there and insights. But Lynne, perhaps you'd like to do an introduction to yourself and Big Idea Brand Marketing and how you help businesses.
Okay, so I'm Lynne Stainthorpe. I'm a brand strategist and my business is Big Idea Brand Marketing, and I work with small business owners, solopreneurs, who mainly coaches, consultants, a lot of people who are ex-corporate selling back into corporate. And what they're struggling with is they're struggling to differentiate their business. And so I help them work out what makes their business meaningfully different, work out their value proposition and their messaging, and help them also create the identity for their business so they can get on and make an impact and make a change in the world.
And I've known your work for years, and Karen, our co-host, can't be with us today, but also works very closely with you. And I love to see that transformation, at how once you've got that brand strategy underlined and beautifully wrapped up in the way that you do, how that then is presented on your website and through your marketing channels and your comms. So I just love that contingent, like that, the way that continually flows through. So tell us, I mean, again, I'm a big fan. I've worked with Lynne on her program, Revitalise Your Brand Messaging program, so can thoroughly recommend that, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it brought so much clarity to me, because even if you think you know it, just by having someone to challenge it as well has been like really a powerful experience, because thanks to you, you really shook up some things that I was like, that's not so clear, or actually, am I really doing that work? Is it as authentic as it could be? So it's really powerful work to do. And part of that comes into, we've heard things like brand personality, but in, brand style, which you go into, but brand, personal brand and business brand. So you help businesses with their brand, their style guides. I'd love to know, what does that entail? Like, how would you sum up what a brand, sort of how a business brand would look first? Let's go with that one.
A business brand. Okay. Yeah. I was all ready to talk about personal brand.
I thought that's okay. Brand is the work that you do and what that factors in, and then we could go about
So a business brand, I mean, most of us operate in very crowded markets. So what you want your business brand to do is you want to be able to make an impact. You want to be remembered, be recognized, and create awareness, and then gain clients, and over time gain loyal clients. I mean, some people say there are two main objectives with your communications. One is awareness and two is loyalty. And that's what you want. You want loyal customers. And a brand is a means of developing, I was going to say these objectives, but that doesn't make sense. So a brand is a means of getting your business out in the world, getting remembered, getting liked. And the other thing about a brand is a brand to really make an impact, especially if you want to make a difference in the world in a good way, is it's a means of creating affinity, of developing relationships. And people talk about a brand as a promise, which it is. So it's also what we're doing with a brand is we're trying to we're trying to nail down what are the results that this brand promises, what's the transformation this brand will bring, and how is this brand going to make your life better? I mean, that's what it's all about. And then when we're getting into the marketing, then we're communicating it. When we're getting into a website, we want to make it really easy for people who come to our website to understand what it is we do, to understand how we make their lives better, and to understand how to buy from us. And I myself have been guilty of not making that clear, because clarity, one of the things I've learned is clarity trumps creativity every time. We've just got to be clear, haven't we?
Yeah.
If we can be clear and creative, that's a double whammy, but clarity comes first the whole time. So that's another role for our brand. Our messaging has got to be really clear. It's got to be really clear what transformation we bring, how we make people's lives better, and how they can buy from us, as well as what they can buy.
So true. I think some of the best websites I've visited, I've known why I'm there. I already felt like I belonged.
Yeah.
I already felt like you're the person that's going to solve my problem. And that's why I've come to you. And straight away, the purchase is not, or just the service or the product has been a no-brainer. And a lot of us have that, but we're just not being clear in why you amongst everyone else. Yeah, that's amazing.
And developing that affinity. And that's why, this is why it's really interesting to talk about personal branding as well, because I think the most successful brands have a personality. And so it's as if they're a human and we relate to them on that human level. So creating connections, developing affinity, and there are different ways to do that is really important in the whole business of branding and brand marketing and PR. And communication. Absolutely. It's really important.
And I think one of those pillars, because we talk about a brand's values, mission, and then it goes into like personality. And I mean, whenever I hear the words like, be more human as your brand, I always think of you, and how you encourage that message of like, we've got to almost humanize it. What's your personality? How's that coming across in your messaging? And I think that's where the personality side, sometimes as a brand owner, as a business owner, we put so much of ourselves into that company. So yes, it is driven by your initial, your values and your mission, which, and a lot of your personality will come out to differentiate the services that you're doing. So I think it can be quite confusing when we then talk about personal brands, because, and I'd love to hear your understanding, your definition, or if somebody said the words personal brand to you, what would that mean for you?
Yeah, for me, I kind of think, well, every individual has a personal brand. And in the olden days, you call it your reputation. So it's what you're known for, how you behave. My understanding is, I haven't looked at this up, but my understanding is that personal brand originates in the corporate world or in big organizations, where as part of your career path and the vision for your career within an organization, it was important to be known for something, to stand out for something, to get recognized for something, whether it was being really good at managing projects or managing people really well. And so all that was tied in with reputation. And then I think what has happened as well, and it's a good thing, is that then, because we're so outwardly focused, you've also got personal brand then relating to how you look, what your personal style is, what colours you wear. Do you look good? Are you known for wearing red ties or green socks or, that sort of thing, or no tie? And so you got that association with not only the impact you made in an organization and how that got you promoted, but also with how you could be recognized through your style as well as your personality. I think that's probably where it originated. And of course, in corporate, it's still really relevant, because I've noticed, I know some career coaches, and I know that now they're talking about personal brand, and they're working with image consultants, which is good, you know, a good thing. And it's evolved into, it's a massive industry now, isn't it? Personal branding. So we have image consultants, we have people like me who focus on personal brand. We have photographers, we have videographers. So it's a massive industry. It's a massive industry. And for me, if you're a small business owner, what comes into play is this whole issue of what you name your business.
Yeah.
So so we all have a personal brand. So actually your brand name is KV. It's from Kristel Bladen, isn't it? KV. So we have got our own personal brand, and we have got our business brand. And of course, they're completely aligned. They're completely aligned in terms of the values, personality, etc., etc. When it comes to naming your business, there are no right answers here. I think there are lots of issues that come into play, like what's your exit strategy, what's your plan, what's your vision for the business. So you can choose to name your business with your name. And in fact, there's a proven success rate. It's really, really a benefit to use your name if you're in fashion designers, hair, great hairstylists use their name, coaches use their name, where you've got this personal reputation, personal style, really important for the business. And that's the business brand is also the person's name.
Yeah.
And I then think there's a continuum. This is my theory. There's a continuum as you grow your business, which is at some stage, if you decide you want to scale your business, that personal brand evolves into a business brand. And the crunch is when other people represent it. Because at that stage, you need a style guide. You need to have written down, this is the brand voice. This is the tone of voice. This is the personality. These are the colors. This is how we represent the brand. You still can have all that when it's just you, but it becomes more critical when you're bringing other people into the marketing and messaging and communications, and you're getting employees or you're outsourcing, because one of the great secrets of building a powerful brand is consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you also get that thing as an individual. Do you ever get it? Well, you must get it in PR. If you draft a press release and someone says, that's not how I would say it.
Well, that's the important thing of doing the work and saying, right, what's the tone of voice here? Or, you know, it does happen. You know, I think every copywriter will have that as well. If they've got to understand what the brand tone of voice is, how the style of language, how to represent you.
That's right. So for me, they're completely aligned, but there's a place at which there's a transition or evolution in your business from when your personal brand becomes a business brand. And it's like you see it, I was thinking the other day about you also thinking about exit strategies. How do you feel if someone else owns your name? And we've got examples like Bobby Brown, Joe Malone.
Yeah.
Interesting, both owned by Estee Lauder.
Yes, yes.
But they no longer own those brands or are part of those brands, but their names on them. So that's another thing to think about with, it comes into play if I'm working with someone on brand naming. When we talk about, I always ask the question, what's the exit strategy? And if someone says, oh, I want to sell the business, I want to build it and sell it, then do they want to sell their name? And it's very individual. So some people say, oh, it doesn't bother me. And other people say, oh my God, no, we need a we need a name that's not my name. So
yeah, absolutely.
So the vision of for the business, the values for the business, they're really important.
That's fascinating. And I think that it's really interesting questions to ask. And is this something that you would ask someone at the beginning of, do you find that this is for new business owners, or do you find that the majority of the personal versus business branding dilemma or quandary comes when they've been up and running for a couple of years? Like, where do you see that point where it becomes a question more so?
It comes into play with both. So if with rebranding, what's really interesting with rebranding is I've been working with quite a few coaches lately, and I would say about 2/3 of them are rebranding to their personal name.
Now, this is interesting because I see someone like Steve Bartlett from Social Chain, and that's everything that he did was social chain. And now, obviously, he's grown and evolved, and he's an entrepreneur, sort of, go-to in his own right. So, of course, now it's all about Steve Bartlett. So sometimes the person wants to leave. It makes it easier for the person to leave behind the company to then evolve. But actually, so it's to see both sides of this.
Yeah.
It happens both ways, I think. I think the reason why I'd love your insight is because we did a chat earlier this year about personal and business branding for PR purposes. And the reason it came up as well is because I was in Clubhouse, it was more active back then, but it was really interesting to see how personal branding is the way to go. And then the way they were pitching it was almost like, and I understand it from a small business point of view. When I'm speaking to business owners and looking at how to promote them, their thoughts, their values, their viewpoints, the incredible work they're doing, we need a spokesperson. So I need them to step up. And that to me is similar what you had said at the beginning about corporate branding. We need a spokesperson. Who's that spokesperson going to be? But when you speak to business owners, they're a little bit reluctant, some of them, to step up, to be that face, to be that voice. And I think, from my understanding, I've had to find ways to work around it and advise them, we're not asking you to be Brand Beckham here. And it's not based as Brand Beckham. And that's where the confusion was in the Clubhouse chats that I was listening to.
Yeah.
I felt that there was something that wasn't quite aligned for a lot of people. And to be honest, I'm an introvert, so it would scare the bejesus out of me. If you told me at the very beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, you laugh, we can laugh about KV Comms as the name. I had no intention to call it that. I was like, oh, it would need to be a company name. I got told, don't use your personal name because it'll be seen as you're sort of like devaluing what you're doing. And but for me, I was finding my way and finding a way of doing PR and marketing for clients that was different. So actually, I want the KV. Like, now looking back, I thought this is perfect because I'm putting my own stamp on it. So actually, how you're communicating your brand messaging and how you're communicating your business is how we're going to work together is going to be very different. But when I look at people wanting to step up, even when I was looking at KV Comms, I thought I want a team, and then I'll have to evolve the brand name, and so again it will come out a little bit more. I won't have to be the spokesperson. There is an undeniable point in your comms where we do need the spokesperson. We do want to hear from the business owner, but how much of you giving yourself doesn't have to be Brand Beckham and papped and have to answer every PR opportunity that there is to be seen. But there is actually there is actually a nice balance, I feel, of actually, if I am, once you've got that brand style guide, who else could be speaking on your behalf that knows it just as well as you? In fact, I've got a wonderful situation with a client that, you know, the owner does not want to be visible, and he wants the marketing officer to be the spokesperson, but he's the brains as well behind it. So you're just like, wow, this is really interesting to see, and it still happens over and over again. But you know, we're on LinkedIn. You know, we're quite active on LinkedIn, and I see a lot of people, it's their personal opinions out there. So how much time and energy goes in your profile, your company profile, can have a taxing effect. So it's really important to be clear on what you want to do, would you agree, from the offset, and where you spend your time?
Yeah, and it can evolve, can't it, as well? So it can be that when you founded a business, you're the CEO of the business, which means you're doing the selling. You're more than this. You're the CEO of the business, but you're also your sales director, marketing director, new product innovation director, your PR director, your everything. And if you've got ambitions for that business to grow, then it is thinking about what's the role you want. And you've raised something really, I think, really important about being an introvert or an extrovert. So it's perfectly valid to say, this is my business and I'm the driving force behind it. And this is the purpose of the business. These are the values of the business. And this is, this is what we're all about. These are our clients. And it's perfectly valid to nominate someone else to be the spokesperson. And equally, it's perfectly valid to be the spokesperson. And both can work really well. I always feel in our area, there are no right answers, really. It's just what works for this business with its audience and how it delivers its message. So the whole role of influencers, though, is a different ballgame, isn't it?
Well, that was exactly where I was going, because we have more control than we think. But then you have something like social media and algorithms that will tell you how often you have to post, what kind. So you feel like you're jumping through hoops in terms of, I've got to be out there and I've got to show my face because people want to see what's going on behind the scenes. And, we have to be authentic and true. But we do have more choice. I mean, we've been doing a couple of chats of, you don't have to be on those platforms. You can be a success, but also you can be on those platforms and do it your way, but you're engaging more through other channels in order to get the balance of activity and engagement. I think you're right with influencers, and I think that is the other factor. And I don't want to be too disparaging or like mean in how that comes across, but there is a good and a bad side to influencers. And I think that, we've had the fake it till you make it influencers, which haven't been truthful at all. You've had some really powerful influencers that have, had a cause that have done amazing things. But I think you're right. We're seeing the age of creators now. Everyone's a creator. It used to be everyone was a publisher. Now everyone's a creator. So equally, how you're standing out and your style, your tone is going to come out in that as well. So I think that's what's really important to define. Make sure that when you're thinking about your business brand, your personal brand, how they're aligned, and also when you're going out to represent yourself and your business, be it as a business owner or as the name, how that's reflected. This is wonderful actually to hear. And I think as well, we talked earlier just before about switching like from one to the other. So how you can evolve, and like you said, you're seeing more and more coaches doing that. And I think it would be similar as a rebranding, wouldn't it? Just as simple, like we have more control. Going back to this, there are no right or wrong answers. There's a really good framework and a really good sort of understanding of where you would be better placed. But, it would just be the way of a rebranding. And have you found that's impacted when you've done rebrands for people? if anything, it makes it stronger. I think people fear that they're going to lose something from all that work that they've done.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, the work I do with people on their rebranding, it's a platform for growth, really, because if they've been in business for, say, 2 or 3 years, they've learned an awful lot. They've learned about the audience. They've learned about the services or products that they offer. They might they've learned they maybe want to bring new products or services, and they want to. It's also about positioning, isn't it? Sort of what impacts are we going to make? What do we want to be known for, and amongst which audience? So there's that whole positioning. What do we want to be known for, and who buy? Because you can't be all things to everybody. So you need to stand for something to somebody. That's really important. So the rebranding, my experience of rebranding is it's a means of gaining real clarity about your audience and your brand versus your competitors, and bringing out the difference that you bring, what differentiates your business, and how you make a difference for the audience. So I know lots of people talk about this, about niche or niche if you're in America. So niche, what you need is a minimal viable product, don't you? A minimum viable audience. And you can go as narrow, ideally as narrow and deep as you like. You can go slightly broader. You can have more than one audience. You can have, I get worried if we have more than 3. Because I think that's a bit confusing. But say you have 3 target audiences. At the heart of what you offer is that transformation, the results. In fact, what I've been discovering with some, I think it's true of my own business, and it came out with a consultant I worked with recently, that they had two different target audiences and need to talk to them in a nuanced way in terms of the results and transformation they're bringing. But the process that they use with both of them is the same process. It's the same process, but to speak to each audience, they need to adjust the tone and the deliverables, if you like. God, I'm using jargon now, but that's what they need to do. But I found that really fascinating, because it made me, you learn so much from your clients, don't you? Because working that out made me reflect back to my own business. I thought, actually, yeah, I do that as well. I'm using the same process, but I'm using it with different people.
Yeah.
To get the results. So I think with the rebranding, I think that clarity, what happens is that clarity, and that gives you focus, and that focus somehow raises confidence and gives you then this great clarity in the message, and increases the confidence as you get more of a response. And after rebranding, I've just seen some people just go, just go. It's just elevate tremendously. It's really exciting.
Because there's a lot of confusion about how, I mean, just as a business owner, I'm sure we've all had it, and I know my clients have, or even my colleagues. There is that, I call it a transitioning period as such.
Yes.
Because you are going to grow and evolve as a business owner. It'd be the first, like you said, that those first couple of years, just hitting the ground running. We're trying to learn our processes. We're trying to learn things like, be the financial director in our business, or a marketing director if it's not natural to us. Or if it is natural to us, we're just not doing it for ourselves, which is often what happens in marketing. Like a lot of us just forget to, like you said, we can't coach ourselves. But equally, we've learned at a certain point, and then that you have to up a level, and there's that transitioning point, but you're not too sure, because you're not leaving behind. You're taking the best bits of what you've learned, and you're trying to formulate something to improve it onto the next level.
Yeah.
And I think it's the questions of what works, what doesn't, how you're seeing, what you see, what you have liked, what you don't like, and where you stand. And I think that as we're growing as people, because it is it's a growth journey in ourselves, isn't it? I've learned so much about myself, about other people doing this, probably more so than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, and especially like we talk about relationships outside of work, we all learn those little things, but there's so much that goes on. So I think that it's that transitioning period of what to say, how to be, and going through that process with you. I think it makes us more confident and comfortable with ourselves, who we really are.
Yes, I can see that happening. And also that it is a process of evolution, because there's this thing about the two great secrets of branding are consistency and evolution. And then it's, what do you stay? Oh, that's a bit contradictory, but it's kind of working out. Well, what do you stay consistent to? You stay consistent to your purpose, to your values, aspects of your personality. It doesn't mean to say that you can't add in, like we all have loads of values, but the business, it works really well. The business focuses on 3 to 5, I feel. And as the environment changes, the reason we need to evolve is the environment changes. As we know, it's just happened enormously, and people have transitioned their businesses. So maybe businesses have acquired a value which is about the environment, or about social justice, or, you know, could be, you can acquire values as well, because something has changed in the environment and it's really impacted on us personally or professionally, and therefore it impacts the business. So I think so stay true and consistent to those things that really matter, but evolve the things that need to evolve. It's like fashions change, styles change, and a rebrand brings this into focus, doesn't it? So a rebrand brings into focus, does my brand look dated? And do I need to modernize it? Or is the way I speak, the sort of words I use, are they dated, out of date? So these are questions that brand owners are always looking at. And I think there's this thing about that brings personal brand and business brand together, is how you manage the brand. So managing the brand. So on the one hand, you've got creating the brand, rebranding, but then actually the day-to-day is managing the brand. And that's where these questions come into play, don't they? Especially for small business owners. So what role do I play in my business brand? Or my business brand has my name on the door, so what's the role I play? What's my voice? What's my style, etc., etc.? And it all comes back to being really clear about your vision, your values, your personality, your brand personality, your personal personality, and how you remain true to who you are and what you do and why you do it. In fact, PricewaterhouseCoopers, I always remember it because it's really well expressed. I was reading a recruitment brochure that they'd done for graduates, and it talked about personal brand, and they said it's all about bringing who you are to what you do and how you do it. And when I read that, I thought, that's brilliant, but it equally applies to using your brand personality in a business brand. So for me, I think there's this continuum which is aligning. So maybe do the questions arise because there's a misalignment?
Yes. Yeah, I see what you mean. That's probably and I think the misalignment, and I think to choose between the two, I think there could be an element of fear.
Yeah.
To actually step up. Like when I see it as, I you know, can we get you to be the spokesperson? How does that look? Where are you going to be? Who are you going to network? Like these are all great opportunities. And when you frame it as opportunities for the business, they'll happily do it. But when they think, oh, it's me standing up and me speaking, it's the same thing about value. It's, you know, are you speaking up? It's not a speaking opportunity. It's that your words or your insights can help somebody in that audience, and then you see that reframe of what they're there to do, rather than it's not about just them. And what they're representing. But when it's a personal brand, as in I am the business, and I've got to profile myself. It takes and I think that as business owners, like you say, I think there is always going to be an element of the personal brand versus where we have to step up as the CEO and be a brand. Like, we have to be an extension of what that company is. More accessible. Alignment, and definitely I think there could be an element of fear in order to decide, plunge and go for it.
And maybe it's not a versus. Maybe it's not personal brand versus. Maybe it's a question of using my personal brand to grow my business, and using my business brand, you know, that it's not a versus, it's I have a personal brand, I have a business, and they need to work together. So it's not a fight. It's I was thinking yesterday about how would you visualize this, and I had two options to be really interested in your view. So my first option was, is it like a bullseye where the center is you, the essential you? You've got a circle around that, which is your personal brand, and this for small businesses, a circle around that, which is what did I say? So there's you in the center, personal brand is the circle around it, and the circle around that is your business brand. So they're all perfectly aligned and they're working in harmony. And then the other way I was thinking about it was, or is it a Venn diagram where you have two circles and they overlap and the personal brand's in the middle? So what do you think? Which one do you think is more true?
Oh, I would veer towards the dartboard, the
bullseye,
because it's where you're going to place other people.
Yes.
I think that for my company brand,
yes,
like, I've got my team around.
Yes.
They can't affect my own personal values.
Yes.
But it's who I'm going to bring in. I will influence my company values because of my personal values.
Yes.
And I will bring them on that company brand mission with me. And so that's where the darts are going to be.
Yes. I think that's brilliant. And that's where, because if you have the Venn diagram, you've got that separation, which takes you into verses, doesn't it? But if you have the bullseye, then everything's aligned and you can grow your circles, can't you? I really like what you said about, so in the business brand circle, that's where other people play their role, play their part. And as the business gets bigger, you've got more people coming into play, haven't you?
Well, also you'll have, so I always say this, and I swear I need to do an infographic and around it, because someone else will take it quite easily. But I like to call it's the spheres of influence, as in there's you, and it's like a ripple effect. So when I'm talking about comms, I'll always say you've got your inner circle, which for me would be the team and the company and what makes it work. Then you've got obviously community, your customers. Then you've got your sort of shareholders, your stakeholders, whatever that might be. Well, actually, I put industry first because that's where I want most of my clients to be more active. Like I want you to step up in your industry. Because you've got something to show here. They really got your stakeholders and influence your investors, which I would, from a business perspective, I'd be like, no, we do the work and we give back to the investors. They don't influence they can't affect your values as such, because you've got to be strong. They buy into your values. It's like, John Lewis, like, I know you love a good John Lewis story, but when I think about John Lewis and that sort of, the partners are joining into that ethos. And then, for me, it's external. It's like your audience and your customer, like your media, your partners, your collaborators are all on that final leg. So the way that I see it as a ripple effect, like we've got staff.
Lovely. Love it. Yeah.
And I think that with personal branding, it's going to be the same. It applies to both business and personal brand, whoever that may be. Like that's how you go out there. Like, for example, when going back to the whole Brand Beckham thing, but when you look at like a David Beckham, it's like, it makes sense that, and we use this, it's very old, it just shows where I'm coming from. But it's like, he was an expert, it's his family, like what they're doing together. It was like the family brand, it was the footballer, it was the fashion ambassador, the charity ambassador, like all these things, these layers as it goes out. But I feel that, like you say, it's what we've made is a really clear distinction of, actually don't get confused with your brand name, like your name being the company name, or at least have that exit strategy in line. So are you pushing that personal brand? What's the exit strategy? And that's the only thing where I say it's where to choose. But what we've brought today is the fact that it can evolve. The way that I see it is that if it got to the point where I see me as the voice, because I'll be doing the work most of the time. There'll be other elements like small business chat where I'm joined with someone. That's another, that's another element. But equally, if it got to the point where I am influenced in the operations by a team of people, we'll rebrand and evolve the brand name to a more broader company name.
Exactly.
It's more fluid, actually. I like that. That's come out of a really good conversation that actually we perhaps were a bit too much. It's important to be clear and do the work, but we will always evolve, and I like that consistency and evolution at the same time.
They're not really contradictory.
I think there's something that once you accept it, sometimes you've got to lean into these things and accept that, there's always going to be change. There's always going to be things that we can't control. And actually, this is a much more fluid and perhaps healthier way of thinking. Because for me, I think as a business owner, those mental health issues of I can't, something's falling and we can't change things. But equally, the mental health issues I have to be online like entire time. I've chosen to be a personal brand, and I have to be the face, and the mental health issues around social media for me. I've heard it before. Somebody was like, I have depression and I have to appear, and sometimes it doesn't happen. If you're chronically ill, if you have, mental health issues, that's why sometimes it's better to work. You can still be a personal brand, but you can control how much you're putting out there. So I think there's a lot more control over it and fluidity. Again,
it's in a way I come back to the bullseye, because and I had that bullseye, which is the essential you. And I think this is a very personal choice of, you see, for me, there's elements of me that I don't talk about on social media.
Right.
Now, for other people, and I respect it, they will share every element of them on personal media. But that's the choice, and there's no right or wrong answers. And I sometimes wonder if the personal brand can become a bit of a straitjacket or a constriction, but it's self-imposed in that I must always show up so I'm looking good, or I've got to write a post daily, or whatever. And in fact, you don't have to, and you can take a break. And I just wonder if we all need to protect that essence of us in because human beings have never dealt with a modern age like the modern age in terms of communications, have we? We've never dealt with it before.
Yeah.
And it's bringing us stresses and strains. And so I think that's another thing. That's another reason why I have that bullseye. But I don't know if it's really personal to me.
Well, it'll be a good question for anyone that's listening, or wants to let us know. And I think this has been a really interesting discussion and chat to try and hopefully clarify, give you permission to venture out and do what's right for you as a small business owner. And actually, for me, it's definitely catch up with Lynne if you've got questions. You can post them in the comments below the chat. And just let us know. Lynne, it's been really lovely chatting. I feel like I always have to watch the time with us because it's like, but it's always, I'm never going to stop someone the flow. We say 30 minutes ish, but yeah, this has been wonderful. So thank you so much for your time, guys. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your time and your would love to hear your insights, and thank you. We will be back, but just really enjoyed this one. So thanks a lot, Lynne.
Yeah, thank you for asking me.
Pleasure. Take care.
Bye.